Hi, everybody. I'm Jill Renee Feeler, and I'm here with Janet Eichhorst. Hi, Janet.
Hi, Jill.
So glad you're here.
I'm so glad to be here, and I'm so glad you're here too.
Thank you. All right, we are on episode number 49, and what we have on deck for you is a conversation that Janet and I love to have when we're not here with you guys in podcasts, either with each other or even just the way we experience ourselves. There are so many ways that those of us that are allowing slash intending to embody what I would call our soulfulness, our widest range of energy as source, have this sense of identity and connection that is very difficult to describe. But a term that I like to offer is it's like a part of us that sits or creates galactic councils. And that term may not resonate with everybody, but the reason I like it is it, number one, it feels important. And I think that's good because it helps us take our light seriously in this reality. And it also signifies formality, that there's a formal aspect to who and what we are as the source energy, as Holy Spirit, as godly energy, and that component, that range is in many ways not only accessible, but it's part of our sovereignty in our human journeys. So, what I would love to invite all of you into is a conversation that Janet and I have related to our humanness in connection with or in transmission of our Galactic Council representation as source energy.
This lights me up like a Christmas tree. This topic does. And so there's many different ways to describe this. We could be talking about our higher levels. We could be talking about the God consciousness that we are. We could be talking about cosmicness and galacticness and infiniteness, the infiniteness of the soul and the beings that we are. And when you take all of that, and here we are in a human body, and we're wanting to experience the best, most applicable parts of that in our everyday lives. And why? Because the level of creativity that we get with that, the level of range of experience. And we're in a phase now that I very much can feel, hear, see, and know where our physical bodies are getting shifted so that we can hold more light and hold more of those frequencies. And even if you don't use this language on a daily basis, what that means is that you can do things that you typically couldn't do before, and they could be really easy. Even the things that you've struggled against forever. And if you've been committed to doing some type of self reflection work, whether that's in the spiritual community, in the healing realms, doing meditations where you feel like your whole body disappears, which happens to me frequently when I get in that field of God consciousness or in that field of stillness, or you could call it 0 point or quantum. And I know we've talked about the physicists have a different definition of the way that we're talking about this, but it's real. And so, how we can be that here in this planetary consciousness changes everything. It solves problems, it comes up with creative ideas that come from nowhere. When you look at all the great, what we would call inventors that have these really reality shifting inspirations. We all have our capability to do that, and there's a probability of it. Even if you are a trash collector and you have found a way to do your job, which is better than anybody ever would have thought of ever, right? So it doesn't matter really what part of our world you're interacting with. It's possible for every single one of us. And when we're talking about those galactic councils and all those meetings, it's like, I mean, I'm conscious of a lot of them. And I just got back from a trip from Europe, which we talked about many moons ago because we record these early. And the level that that happened for me in terms of knowing and feeling my who I am and the greater capacity of who I am on those levels, and how that appeared and how that showed up on my trip was phenomenal. And I want that for everybody, no matter what your choices are in your life. Oh, wow. And there's a huge, I can just feel this huge wave of energy and frequency being offered here. Jill and I, and the frequencies that we are and that we can facilitate for people, I feel that that's open and available to you right now. And we've done this in every single podcast. And sometimes we talked about it and sometimes we didn't. And right now, we are really shining the light into this possibility for you and the potential for you as an incredible aspect of source frequency.
There is so much that has already happened in this recording. And somebody may even on the replay just want to stop and like start over these first 6 minutes over and over and over again. I feel like there's built-in codes when we have conversations like these, that it's okay if you're it's okay if you feel new to this and we're using language that you're not familiar with. You don't need to resonate with the language in order to receive the expansion. And what I know from experience with my community, and I'm sure Janet can probably say the same thing about her community, there are many individuals that they may have listened for weeks or sometimes even months to the material that I was offering, and it felt like another language. Maybe that was earlier on when I was not as astute at using everyday language.
Mm.
Um, but it took a while before they were like, "Oh, now I know what you mean. Now I feel what you're talking about," because they had allowed that range of energy that they are to expand to fit more of the soulfulness that they are. Okay. So I don't want to take any credit for somebody's breakthrough.
Mm.
I don't want to make it seem like somebody else's sunshine is helping your plants grow, right? My favorite part of all of this work is to assist people in recognizing and trusting and allowing the inner sun, if you will, that they are for their own garden. If your garden, to use the metaphor of your garden, is your life, and the energy of the sun is you as your source energy, and it's from within you. So the inner sun is reflecting on and supporting and energetically feeding the garden, your lifeline, your livelihood, all aspects of it. So it's a very internal process. I loved it, Janet, when you mentioned the example of somebody that, as a job, as a career, collects trash, right? Collects garbage, collects refuse. Um, this, and I love that this is another opportunity to explicitly almost not argue, because I mean, I like to argue, but to discount the notion that to be connected to God personally, that requires that you have a specific profession. Well, you have to be a professional healer in order to feel connected to source or something like that. It's any profession, it's any background, it's any ancestral line. It is any mind patterns as well. No one is denied. No one is outside of the ability for their garden to grow by the light that they are. Absolutely no one, right? And you don't need a human teacher. That's another thing that I know in spirituality and probably in anything that people want to excel at, there's oh, well, who's your mentor? And it tends to be a living person, or in spirituality, sometimes it's highly regarded individuals viewed as closer to God than them. This can be a very almost accidental, simple, stumble upon kind of experience. It doesn't require hitting rock bottom. We've already done podcasts about that.
Mm.
You can literally just allow yourself to, all the times that you've had fabulous ideas and you're like, that's I understand it, or that's a great question, or that's a great solution to try. That was your source. That was the source energy that you are, and you allowed it because you were probably open to another version of yourself amidst the godliness you are. So I love to demystify it. Janet, we've talked about this before, Janet. We don't want to be put on a pedestal. We don't want to make it seem like, oh, well, we have this giftedness because of, this tragedy or that teacher or, that dedicated training or whatever. I really love the normalization of transcendence.
Mm. There's so many things that I just have flowed through as you spoke. I and this is all so near and dear to my heart. And so the last thing, I'll start with that. Like, if I wanted to be known for anything, so you'd be like, remember? And now those two women, Jill and Janet, they talked about this a lot. The ones that said, you got it inside you, and let's be done with the time of the guru. Let's be done with thinking that something outside of us is necessary for me to be the fullest version of myself possible. I command light, not in a power over way. And unconditional love is the most powerful thing that I know. And when that radiates from me, everything has an opportunity to find that within themselves. And these are the same things that we've been talking about for the whole time that we've been doing this podcast, is that do not deny your own potential ever, 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 ever. And what I know is that we are pre-wired to be these incredible beings. And there's just certain things that we haven't quite got access to. It's here, but for whatever reason, we haven't been able to use it in a very practical way. And that is where I just get so excited when I'm on a session with somebody, or even in the line of the grocery store, or even trouncing or trampsing or running through Europe and having these incredible interactions with people that may not even have the same language as their primary language, and having those moments where that happens. Sorry, my phone's is buzzing over there.
I'm going to turn mine on Do Not Disturb too, just in case mine isn't on there either.
Started doing a vibration. It's like, ah! Oh, yeah.
I want to offer that I think the words that you used were that, the days or the end of the days of the gurus or something like that. I just want to reiterate that for individuals that no one else has to agree with you. Okay. It's possible that one of the reasons I'm so quick to talk about where I differ from a lot of spiritual teachers or a lot of spiritual teachings is because I recognize how much more of my connection to God I felt and allowed as I did that, as I broke away from very well regarded, publicized, popular topics of any kind of spirituality, the more I was like, well, I don't think that's true. I felt an expansion of my godliness. That was so unexpected. So, if some people want to give credit to a mentor or a guru or a teaching, I want to give credit to breaking away because that's when I felt the most. I felt the most confined in my connection to source in some of the things that are the highest regarded as the way to source. So that may not be true for everybody, but if that's true for somebody else, oh, I'm so happy to kind of give a voice to that
Mhm.
journey, if you will, of connection to yourself as source of the source energy we all are and life is, because it was so dramatic. So there's a downside to it though, and that's that it can feel lonely to individuals that truly had loved the idea that, like, is it Ram Dass that, well, he was one of the, it's not a very original idea, but I know Ram Dass is credited for saying we're all walking each other home. And when I saw it, I'm like, oh, that's so boring. Is that true? And then I'm like, wait, why aren't we home? Where are we going? We are the light we are. So where are you leaving to go to get to the light that you always were and can't not be? Oh, I get it. That teaching and the underlying philosophy is when you're here and you're humanist, you're not your light. So you are on a journey to something that you're not while you're alive to get to, very akin to traditional Christianity, a version of heaven after this life, right? Now, some of you that have really studied Ram Dass are probably pointing out that I'm wrong, and I could be because I haven't studied Ram Dass. But I'm just pointing out an example of there are many times when there's been a standard line that's used and I felt the limitation in it. And then as I questioned it, I immediately felt expansion of the light that not only I am, but that we all are. Yeah. So if you resonate with like what Janet was saying is maybe this is the end of the gurus for you, you know what I mean? It's totally okay that you are the only one that feels that way. And it's totally okay to stay in communities or in other, in-person groups or online groups where they're all kind of, oh, we're all walking each other home together. We're all walking home together. If that provides a benefit for you and is additive in your life, you don't have to say, well, I'm out of here. I think you're all wrong because now I think differently. You get to decide. I'm comfortable feeling like n equals one, like a data point of one. I'm comfortable in that, but not everybody is. And I'm acknowledging that.
Yeah, this is really good because I can take the very concept of walking each other home and the lens that I come from, define it in such a way that it fits everything we've been talking about in our podcast series. Because my home is my galactic cosmic being embodied and being right here. And so my definition of that, when I hear that, what I automatically translate that into is that others can hold space and help reflect back to me the light that I am so that I am home here. And that might be contradictory to how other people view that very concept. And it's such a great example. And there's other people that would take that and perceive that with the very definition that Jill spoke about. And when you were sharing again and brought up that concept of the end of the guru, it is about self-guruism to me, where we're moving into the phase, the potential is becoming more and more in my world, and what I'm supporting and what I'm assisting in people creating is their self-guru-ness, where it is recognizing the uniqueness in what I am and the frequency and the vibration that I bring forward in such a way that nobody else does. And knowing that that doesn't mean that I'm better or worse than anybody. But when I come forward with that, and I'm with other people that are doing the same thing, we can create new structures, new ways of doing things, and have such a good time doing it because nobody is made wrong. Do you think anybody agreed with Einstein, Galileo, even, I mean, you could name any great invention, even flying, like people, anything that happened that was outside of the norm of what people knew at the time is not, it threatens what people know. And it kind of does look like you're an outcast. Is that heresy? I mean, that's what it looks like. It's like, wait, what? That can't be true. And I find myself with that, and I've gotten comfortable with that. When somebody in my world says something, and we'll see if an example comes forward because I would love to give a really great one here, and I hope one does because right now I don't have it. But when somebody says something that's so outside of the field of consciousness that I've been living from, I almost can't even consider that it could be true. And sometimes people that are kind of in an evolutionary phase, they're so far ahead that they get made wrong by a great majority of people that are so, it's so far out of how their brain is literally operating at the moment that it's difficult to be able to understand even what they're talking about. And so the resistance for me when that comes up, the resistance mechanism, the protective, the survivalness within me wants to go, "Oh, no. Oh, no." And it's literally like I just feel myself just like, "No, no, 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 it can't be," it's like, and I get to just be present to that and say, "Hang on a minute, everybody," and kinda gather myself and recognize that this has happened to me so many times before, it's not even countable in the number system that we know, that there's a possibility that that could be true. And I don't know in this moment whether it is or whether it isn't. And I think that's a great thing right now. We've talked about this too recently about getting more comfortable in the unknown. And that means I trust my own internal mechanisms more than I ever, ever, ever have. Because those internal mechanisms, if I give myself enough time, any filters that prevent me from seeing a level of truth will fall away and I'll know. And I'll know that for myself. And some people are fast knowers and some people are slow knowers. And I tend to be one that the information comes in and it's gotta, well, sit a bit, right? And it's percolating, it's doing things. And then all of a sudden, I'll just know. I was like, "Oh, that's what that is." And the interesting thing about that is my actions in the interim kinda already know, it's just my consciousness doesn't. So everybody has that mechanism. It looks different for everybody, of course, because we're all unique in all the different energetics. I mean, it literally looks like, to me, I'll see this frequency, geometric shapes. I mean, everything's energy. And the way people experience energy is also individualized for everybody. We know when somebody walks in a room and you're like, ah, you don't see frequency, you don't see, but you just feel it, right? That's the same thing that I do. Mine just looks differently. And I think more and more people, like, don't be freaked out if you start seeing colors or shapes or, these other ways of experiencing reality, because that's normal for a lot of people. And it's just a different way of looking at energy. and seeing energy and experiencing it. And when we're getting more of our galactic higher levels kind of turned on, that's going to happen to more and more people. And I know the first time I had like a vision, it freaked the crap out of me. I was shaking at my core. And I called thank God I had one person to call. And I was like, what is happening here? And there's a lot of people now that people can call and say, I need a little help here.
That's good. You guys, this is great information that we're being offered here. Um, it's helpful to know that as we embody more of our source energy, it is individual. And there are some individuals and amidst their expansion, it felt like giftedness. It felt like supernatural things similar to what Janet just described. And then there's versions of it that just feel like peace. It doesn't feel like messages. It doesn't feel like any visualizations of any kind. It feels like a normal version of you that's more at peace, that feels maybe less anxious. That would be great, right? So it doesn't have to look a certain way. And I know for me, again, that was a huge part of my expansion because when I was recognizing my abilities, there was a lot of expectation about, oh, have you had this yet? Or, oh, have you had that yet? And there's many opportunities for us to project what we think being spiritual or recognizing you have a galactic council layer of you is supposed to look like or feel like in this reality. And I just really encourage people to let it be very normal for you. Let it be not, let it just be, it doesn't have to be anything, right? I just know that I've witnessed it so many times as I've assisted individuals that they're like, it seems like something should be happening. I mean, I just heard Janet on your podcast and she's talking about geometric shapes and stuff. And what am I doing wrong, Jill? I don't have any of that. And I love to be able to say, that's okay. I don't see it either. You guys, I don't see auras. I'm not pretending. For me, it would be pretending. I'm not pretending I do. I'm not really as visual in terms of my giftedness, but some people are. And I don't think it's a coincidence at all that a lot of the individuals that come across my work or schedule readings with me, et cetera, because I do about 10 readings a week. It's busy in the midst of all the other things I do. And so many of them are more similar to me. They're claircognizant. Also, I look at that similarly to clairsentient. They just know stuff.
Mhm.
Now, that can be hard because the downside is that the human brain is like, I show me something, or let me hear something, right? Because the brain has an easier time with something it saw metaphysically or it heard metaphysically. It's like, I saw it, I heard it, I heard it. Oh, geometric shapes. Oh, you know what I mean? It gets so excited. I just had another idea. I just had another knowing. It doesn't get excited about that because it feels like all the other thoughts and ideas that you have as your normal, in your more, if you will, normal operating brain. So I don't think it's a coincidence that a lot of the individuals that tend to seek out my services or something like have that. So Janet, I've never gotten those phone calls about some shit's going down, like I'm shaking, like something's going on. And I've never had that either. Even when I first did readings, there was no physical shaking. I never freaked out. It was like, this is so fascinating that I'm doing this right now and somebody's validating that this information is right. So again, we have two people here, you and me, in this experience right now, and we're sharing completely different experiences. And I love yours because I know it's inspiring, it's assisting, it's validating for people.
Yeah.
And mine in my own perception feels quite boring. It's like, you never shook, you never had a dark night of the soul? You don't see anything, Jill? Geez, that doesn't sound too exciting. Yep, probably not to some people. And I'm okay with that.
Well, I live quite a bit of my life very much in the way that you're describing. And there's other points of it where I'll get windows where I'm in these completely different realities and I see all
Mhm.
this stuff and I'm working with, um, yeah, okay, I can share it this way. I'm working with, and people might think this sounds completely crazy, but it's very real to me, like the templates of reality, of the structure of how our world, our planetary consciousness, and beyond are created, which is what we talk about in Galactic Council meetings. So Jill is, I mean, it's funny because she's living this very kind of looking normally but super intuitive life. And then she's also, I mean, we kind of stir up trouble sometimes at the Galactic Council meetings because that's how we are. We're like, really? And we've joked about wearing, tattoos underneath our garbs because, people are just like too GD serious. And it's just like, that's not my version of what we're supposed to be doing at these meetings because we don't have to. And I'm tired of being too serious.
You're my favorite. You're one of my, well, I know one of, maybe even my top favorite fellow troublemaker in the Galactic Councils. I just know you that way, is that when somebody is coming in going, well, they can't, they have to do it this way or they have to do it that way. And I can literally just imagine me looking over going, and you're just going, this guy. Or we're on like in this reality, it would be on our phones. Can you believe this guy? He's coming in here again. Trying to shut down individual transcendence, thinking they all need to do it together in some mass ascension. Never. And I could just imagine you going, never going to happen. Mass ascension, never going to happen.
And this is what my texts say. Did you see what I put into place about 2 weeks ago to prevent that from happening? Like I literally created a
Oh,
reality. I mean,
oh
this
my
is what I
gosh.
do kind of in my, people could call it grid work or gate work, or in the other things that I do. I literally spend a significant amount of my energy on this planet saying, no, we're not doing it that way anymore. And doing what I do in the way that I do it to not allow that to happen because we're completing, which is so great because we are in a super completion cycle and a super let's do new things cycle. And those need to happen at the same time because we're also done with dropping people off in the deep end without knowing how to swim. Like, think, Jill, from the galactic level, how many times we have died drowning, right?
Oh,
Right. And
okay. Yeah, you go. Yeah, I don't want
yeah,
to interrupt you. You
I mean,
finish
so
and
right?
then I'll.
So think about this. We've done that so many times, and so we're like here giving feedback and feedback. It's like, okay, this obviously doesn't work, you know, and we're literally almost dripping wet in the Galactic Council meeting. It's like I effing drowned again, like my human drowned, and I don't want to drown anymore, right? So this is kind of that really this is what happens.
So, are you saying that there are efforts underway for there to like literally be no more drownings in this reality?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't see it that way. So this is it. I love that we're seeing it differently and can represent it differently. Um, I had my own version of experiences feeling like I was shutting down vulnerabilities in the energy field of mainly the earth reality. Um, and going, okay, that's, like this is a no. It's like a do not enter sign, or when a mine is closed and there's all these like, okay, we got to word it up. And then I realized meaning alternate, let's just say alternative energies. It doesn't even have to be subversive or nefarious. I realized that they kept working around it. And I was just like, and I just felt what I call my team of energy say, you don't need to, for me and my version of it, right? You don't have to be doing that work, because it for me it felt like I was digging a ditch and having a whole bunch of stuff refill it again behind me. So I, as my consciousness, as Jill anyway, stopped doing that.
Yeah.
So that's related to this. I personally don't feel like there is an it's not that there's not efforts underway, but I don't have an expectation that humanity is evolving in such a way that there will be no more accidental drownings or those. I'm fully expecting that however you go in linear time, backwards, forwards, presence, that we will continue to have things like drownings that were 100% preventable. So I like it that we see that differently, Janet,
Yeah.
because I think it reminds people that we literally can, as source energy, as this incredibly wide range of ourselves, have different expectations, have different, it's not that I want drownings, it's just that there is a very different take on it that I have. So I mean, I'm hearing you, and I mean, you are the bomb in terms of everything. And I'm like, oh, I hope Janet's right on this one, because that'd be cool. No more
Well,
drownings. Love it.
yeah, it's very interesting because let me see how this wants to come out here. At a foundational level, and we've talked about this with evolution, there's potentiality and ways for us to improve here and literally be done with a lot of the patterns that we've been doing. And I don't have any expectation of when and how that happens. What I do know is that the structures that I am literally changing daily make a difference in how this is all going to play out in a very significant way. And a lot of it's behind the scenes. And there's also a lot of people that I work with that do these very same things. And it's kind of like a house will not survive unless it has a decent foundation. So the energetic foundations get set however that happens. And a lot of that is not conscious from a human, from any human. And a lot of humans have that level of consciousness because that's their job, so to speak. Like, this is what I've agreed to do. This is how I've created myself in this reality to do those things. And I'm very good at it. And I do it on personal levels and I do it on a broader level too, because it's just how I'm wired. It's not better or worse than anybody else, you know? And I'm also very much what I would call in the trenches because, the way we're doing it as human beings here really matters. So it's my life is very much, well, I'll say it this way. My challenge is to see kind of all the non-unconditionally love-based patterns that are happening in our world and seeing how they're perpetuated and have the greatest level of compassion for that and not get jaded and not get cynical. Because I see people that wanna cause others harm all the time. And to have this incredible force of nature in my galactic, cosmic, and all that is sort of way, and have that soulful joy of working in creation, which mine happens to look like this and very much in the physical. If you talk about creating houses or housing communities or structures or any kind of architecture, I start to geek out because I do this on all the different levels of what we call reality or described as reality, right? So it's interesting because I get that people are going to drown in the physical. That is part of the reality that's happening here. And I also get there's all these other things that are happening that on a foundational level that help others step into more of who they are and help them have more of their creational life force energy available to them. So it's yeah, we've talked about this and sometimes it looks like conflict between us and we don't see it as conflict. We recognize it as differences. And that I think was a surprise to people. They're like, wait, they're not agreeing, are they? Are they supposed to agree? Are they is one person right and one person wrong? And that's kind of cool because it's just, I mean, I love Jill and I love that we get to have these incredible conversations about all these different things and all these different levels of reality.
To expand on exactly what you just said. My awareness is that as our source energy doesn't see everything the same way.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, in to use the terminology that I put on it, because I that's partly what I do is to assign words to energy that I'm feeling and feel revealed to me slash inspired by source energy. And then I decode the energy with human language, and in my case, English language. So I like the term Galactic Council. And that Galactic Council meeting, you guys, it's debate. It's a lot of debate. It's arguing, but it's not mean, but it can get heated. It can get very passionate. And again, going back to the example of somebody that gets paid for a living here in earthly world in human terms for being, waste management, I guess you could say. Um, if they're not interested in this type of thing, and not that every trash collector wouldn't be or would be, I'm literally making it neutral, but if you happen to imagine or know a trash collector or somebody that works in waste management that is not into spiritual conversations, and my take is it's very possible at their source energy level, they're not at Galactic Council meetings either. They're literally like, oh, yeah, that's right. Those conversations go on. I'm not interested in that. And then I would say, awesome. You don't have to be. You
Yeah.
don't have to be at your source energy curious about these types of like debatable types of creation theory, right? The theology and theory about all of it, the physics of how it works in space time. You don't have to be interested in that at your source energy level, let alone here, right? So again, I'm trying to add some breathing room and
Mhm.
space for differing opinions and differing takes on things that can be very locked in of, well, oh, what shadow work are you working on? It's like, I'm not working on any. And again, I come across the ones that are like, am I missing something? Like, are you like obsessed with like your shadow work, Jill? And I'm like, no, me either. Like, okay, like, do I have to get rid of my ego? And I'm like, no. If you allow your ego to be your storyteller, I hope you have a big one. And I hope it's a good story you're telling yourself. I can help with that. Right. So I'm intentionally counter to
Yeah.
a lot of the things in this reality. Why? Because at my galactic council, if you will, level, I see the repercussions and the limitations that keep showing up in linear time from this reality by following all of these rules and stepping in line like I'm spiritual now. Yep, I quit my nursing job. I'm in poverty. I feel very connected to source. You know what I mean? And it's just like, I'm doing all the full moon exercises, I'm learning chanting. I'm working on Sanskrit. Oh, that's next. I mean, there's just a lot of stereotypes about this. And at the Galactic Council level, I'm like, they don't seem connected to source to me. How's it? And I interview them. How's it going? Kind of feel like I have really high highs and really low lows. Well, why do you have really lows? I keep feeling like I'm doing it wrong. Oh, let's work on that. And then I say, does your spirituality feel like a job? 99 times out of 100, they say yes. My spirituality has become my life, my job, and like my mission for being. And I'm like, oh, it doesn't have to be that way. Wait, everyone I'm around says it is, Jill. Oh, I wonder if we can change that. I wonder if we can offer another narrative, another pathway to the source they are and have always been.
Mhm.
Right? So, yeah.
Yeah, that really does come back to how the judgment and this I had another wave of this recently come up where and my dog was the catalyst once again. She's such a great catalyst for me, and how it involved her, I can't really remember, but I remember walking in my bathroom and I was like, "Oh, am I in that pattern of making myself wrong again?" Like everything. It was like a wave, and it had been in parts of my life, it had been so normalized where I just thought I was wrong. And I don't feel that way. Like if you said I'm back, oh, you're right, I'm not wrong. But it was one of those waves that had revisited me. And it was just so beautiful because I was like, oh. Oh, there it is. Not true. Not true. And that very belief that I am wrong or that I judge myself negatively in any way, shape, or form, especially if it's because I'm not like other people, smash that right up. And that doesn't matter. And it doesn't mean that you don't make corrections, and it doesn't mean that you don't make adjustments, because our choice points are always here. But that any way that I dishonor myself, and we know what that means. It means we feel like crap. And it doesn't mean that, I don't feel like if there's something that really needs to be corrected in my life, I might feel like crap until I make the correction, right? That's one thing. But there's an intrinsically, it's the differentiation is kind of I am bad or I am wrong versus my behavior needs some adjusting. Two completely different things. And there's been so many ideas and so many belief systems around that I am bad or I'm not doing it right that goes to the core level of who I am that's messed so many people up here. It's so dishonoring and so disrespectful. And I hope everybody has their counter, honestly. I hope everybody has their counter that they can say, huh, you sure? Right? Like, so there's these, I mean, I have people like that. And it's the ones that we've talked about this in my circle that I want to show up with me and give me that counter and think completely different than I do around things so that I don't get caught in my own rut. That's important to me. That's a value for me. We agree on lots of things, and our value systems, our moral and ethical belief systems, those are in alignment, honor and respect, right? But the other things, when we all get to check out our compatibility with the people that we hang with, because that's important.
Mhm.
And there's deal breakers. If some people, it's like, too far. So many choices around that.
Yeah.
Mm.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it really is. Oh, is there anything else here today that wants to be shared or brought out or recognized or spoken?
Um, I guess the only thing I'd say is for anyone, I think it can be helpful to use terms or almost like little word cues to remind you that you're more than your humanness, you're more than your human mentor, you're more than your beliefs, you're the operator of your beliefs. For me, I like the term Galactic Council because it makes my brain curious and it doesn't shut me down. But I'm sure there was another iteration of my Jill in this life that would have gone, Galactic Council? What did you just say? You know what I mean? And I I'm soft with myself about that. I'm compassionate that I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't allow what I didn't allow. So it doesn't have to be that term. It could be anything that allows you to feel like you're more than your humanness, that you are transcendent, and that allows for the soulfulness and the source energy and just this glorious version of you to just be readily available whenever you allow it, and definitely when you need it, right? You don't have to be a perfect version of yourself to access that. You need it most when you're not being a perfect version of yourself. So making that an always on part of who you are, that you can't get out of it, you can't get away from it, you can't like, oh, I'm too negative to feel the source energy I am today. Ooh, I really don't encourage that approach, right? So allowing it to be as easy as possible, allowing it to be as fully accessible to absolutely everyone as possible. I love that part of all of this. I love meeting someone that I'm pretty confident is not quote unquote on their spiritual journey. And all I feel is the source energy that they are. They feel safe with me, right? Whether I'm just, helping them with a real estate deal or, somebody is checking me out at the car wash or whatever, that with everybody, if they feel a sense of safety and warmth or, well, Jill will take care of it. I feel that they're allowing the source energy that I can be for me and let them feel the source energy that they are in that process. And I love the times when it's not even related to another human. It's just me countering myself. It's me allowing another perspective that I've never been trained in, never heard anyone say. And all of a sudden I'm like, well, that might not be the best approach. Huh, what's another approach? And then all of a sudden, another layer of me is just right there going, well, there's this. And I'm like, oh my God, huh, I hadn't even thought about that. It's so true, right? So you can be incredibly fulfilled even without somebody to counter you or mirror you or complete you or whatever, or trigger you. Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of different ways to do this, and I really am grateful for the fact that Janet and I have the differences we have because we're not just parroting lines, right? We're really offering like a version here and a version here, and I hope they complement each other. I think they do. But my hope with everything that you say that I'm like, oh, I don't do it that way, or I have a different take on that. I'm hoping that there's members of the audience that are like, oh my gosh, oh, Janet, that's the best. Like, that's what I needed to hear. That's what I'm counting on is that there are differences. And I love that part of all of this.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. And I think that is for me the beauty of the world that I live in is that I can pick up pointers or ideas or be inspired by pretty much anybody. And that includes the ants I see crawling on the ground, and ideas I was like, "Oh, that's a good idea. I could do it that way too. Like I don't have to do that. I could do this." And that to me is just the incredible interdependence that we have here as human beings on this planet. Inner fullness without dimming ourselves, without limiting ourselves in any way.
I guess I would also say, and maybe this is my take on a wrap up for this one, and then I'd love to hear yours as well.
Mm,
We're a lot more like butterflies as humans than we are sheep or cattle or something that gets herded. Um, and I think when I look at a lot of versions of spiritual connectedness, connection to God, religiosity, I keep feeling this herded kind of mentality, this herding of we all have to go this way. There's only one way. We're coming from different angles, but we all have to go through this doorway, this entryway, or like whatever the consequences are for not doing that. And I do look at humans more like I do butterflies. There might be a migration, but there's still going to be individuality, and there's the cocoon phases and caterpillar phases and all of these things. And that doesn't have to mean that the butterfly is better than the chrysalis or better than the caterpillar. It's all like, oh my God, I'm a caterpillar. Oh my God, I'm a chrysalis. Like I'm stuck in here. And oh my God, I'm a butterfly. You know what I mean? There's such beauty and fragility, yet strength in that. The amount of strength it requires for a butterfly to free itself from the chrysalis is pretty fascinating. And it's in that metaphor required for life. I tend to resist the part that struggle is required for transcendence. But I still appreciate that we're not herded. We're not herd beings.
mhm. Yeah, and kind of well, you could call it an addition to that is that we're all valued and we're all important.
Inherently.
Without doing anything, without doing anything. And that's recognized, I will say, in every single galactic council meeting, in every level of reality that I know. And Earth is not the easiest place to be. I will say that. Like, we're just all fucking badasses for being here.
You guys, in my view, this is one of the hardest. It's one of the easiest to get confused in. So whenever somebody has a completely different take on something that I'm like, "Ooh, that's if their goal is this, that's gonna be hard." I have that assessment, if you will, with compassion, not criticism.
Mm. Yeah, thanks, Jill.
Does that feel like a wrap, Janet?
It does.
Thanks, everybody.
Beautiful. Bye for now.